Hello and welcome. This is Fireworks. West Africa's biggest economy shut its land borders, alleging that people smuggled in cheap goods and weapons through them. After that closure in August 2019, the Comptroller General of the service has led Nigerians to understand that between 4 and 5 billion naira is made from the closure on a daily basis, more than the agency used to generate before the closure. In fact, he said a record 9.2 billion naira was generated in September 2019 alone. Now, if Nigeria had made this much from the border closure, who really is profiting? And why are food merchants and farmers biting their fingers in bitterness? More importantly, what are the structural problems impeding revenue generation at the service, especially since the National Assembly has expressed concerns in recent times that the customs, being the highest revenue earner after oil, is not remitting much into the nation's coffers? I'll be asking these questions. I'll be putting them forward through to someone who should know, as I bid you welcome once again to your preferred Hard Talk interview program on TVC. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Let's take a moment. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. Today my guest is a former Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service. He was Comptroller General between 2008 and 2009 in the person of Chief Hamman Bello Ahmed. Now, I don't have coronavirus, but we can't shake today because of social distancing, so we're going to greet this way. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've been retired for some time, but when you watch events in recent times, border closure to be precise, what are the biggest gains or the biggest losses from the border closure since August last year that you have seen?
Well, after my retirement, I took to farming, coincidentally. I cultivate rice seeds, which we distribute to the various states in the country, and in fact, even outside Nigeria, Sierra Leone. So with the closure of the border, it was a welcome idea to a lot of farmers in the country. The main reason was that there was a lot of smuggling of rice that was going on in the country. After the the African Union meeting in Addis Ababa, I think there was a committee that was set up, headed by the president of Burkina Faso, to look at the problems associated with the closure of the border by Nigeria. Incidentally, Nigeria was the country that initiated that ECOWAS. The ECOWAS protocol was signed in Lagos in 1975 under the Yakubu Gowon administration. And today, the border is closed. Why is the border closed? Because of a number of factors, which I'm sure you know more than myself.
No, you should know more. You are a rice farmer.
Yeah, I'm a rice farmer, yes. These are policies of government. And you are in the media. So it is you that have more than
you
myself.
should know more, former Comptroller General, because rice farmers are saying that, yes, indeed, after the closure, some months after the closure, they began to make profit. They were seeing the gains. But not long afterwards, the gains are no longer there. All the imported rice are back into the market.
Are they?
And they are no more making profits. So you should tell us.
Are they?
You should tell us, since you are the
back into the market. Well, let us look at the closure of the border. Why did the government close the border in the first instance? One, they say there is there is smuggling of rice. Not only rice. In fact, all the prohibited items are being smuggled through the borders. That is the claim of the government. Rice, second-hand clothing, poultry products, arms and ammunition, and a lot of other items.
Oil.
That have been coming in. Yes, vegetable oil. Yes, and even the Nigerian petroleum products are being smuggled across. into our neighbors. Yes. So these are the main reason why the government decided to close the border.
So as former Director General, you would know if indeed these products are finding their way back into the Nigerian market with the aid of officials of the Nigerian Customs Service, as farmers are making us to understand. They say that those products cannot find their way back into the market without the connivance of customs officials.
Madam, I want you to note, it is not only the customs that are manning the borders today. You have the army, you have the police, you have the military, you have the road safety, you have the civil defense, and you have the custom. In fact, even the immigration, they are all there in the borders. And even you, as a Nigerian, you can even stop smuggling. If you see somebody is smuggling, if you cannot stop it, it is expected that you go and report to the authorities, and action will be taken on it.
You would rather not indict officials of your former organization?
Indict them how? They were already...
Of all these agencies of government, which one is in the forefront of regulating the borders?
By regulation, by law, it is the duty of the Customs Service to prevent and suppress smuggling.
So it stands to reason what the farmers are saying, that imported rice can't find its way back into the market without the connivance of customs officials.
Now, let us look at this issue of smuggling of rice. What is the requirements of Nigerians on rice to feed Nigeria? You know, when we were children, we only eat rice once, or when there is festivity going on, either naming ceremony, marriage, or what have you. But today, whether you like it or not, in every house in this country, they eat rice. And what I obtained from the president of AFAN, that's All Farmers Association of Nigeria, we need 8 million metric tons of rice to feed ourselves. How much are we producing? We are producing between 3.5 to 4 million metric tons. Definitely, the market is there. The market is there, and smuggling will continue. As long as the Customs Service do not punish those who are involved in this smuggling, they continue smuggling it. You are in the media.
Now let's be candid. Before the border closure, you said you retired to rice farming. Before the border closure, what was your profit margin, and what is your profit margin now after the border closure?
You see, what I was farming, or what I'm farming, is rice seeds. I'm not farming grains. We produce rice seeds and supply it to the farmers who now produce the grains.
Okay, what are the farmers telling you about their sales?
The farmers, you know, it was the government that was buying this and distributing it to the farmers.
Isn't that why analysts say that farmers like you are not ready to feed the nation, since your output is far below what Nigeria consumes, and since you refuse to be frontal about the role of the NCS in regulating the borders following the closure?
The border is closed today.
Yeah, but how is imported rice still finding its way into the market?
Do you have the records of the quantity of rice that is being smuggled into the country? Do you have? In this country, we always carry on hearsay and start to expand it.
This isn't hearsay. This is what has been reported.
What is the record?
This is what has been reported. And besides this, customs
who reported that one?
Who
reported that one? No. Tell me who reported it.
Still intercept contraband goods daily from the north to the west to the south. But some still find their way into the market.
Okay, let me tell you. Even in the U.S., they built a wall between the United States and Mexico. For what reason? To stop smuggling. So even the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, could not stop smuggling entirely. They can minimize it. No nation that stopped smuggling entirely, completely, no nation, but they can minimize it. Let me also say this one. I would blame the Customs Service for one thing, and that thing is that they don't prosecute those that are caught in the smuggling process. And as long as you don't prosecute, you seize the goods and you allow the defender to go away. If you don't prosecute them, they will come back again tomorrow and try their luck. So the custom has to reform its legal department and start prosecuting offenders. Section 171 of the SEMA, that is the custom law, gives the customs the priority of proceedings in court. Why should they not take advantage of this? So as long as they don't prosecute, they don't punish those that are involved in this smuggling, then it will continue because the market is there.
It's not just rice, it's not just farmers who are complaining, you know, that after all, the border closure isn't making the desired impact. Even the National Assembly says smuggling is still ongoing. So in that regard, where are you in this border closure?
Then it's a failure
thing
on the part of Nigerian security
Has
agencies.
it been successful or not?
I say it is. If the National Assembly says smuggling is still going on, then it's a failure on Nigerian security agencies. Because all the agencies in this country, the only agency that I will say is not at the border, maybe the Nigeria Prison Service or the correctional centers, as it's called today. They are the only agencies that are not in the border. All the other agencies of government are in the border. And if smuggling is still going on, then they are also conniving. And it's a failure on their own part.
Interesting. So, where are you in this border closure matter?
I'm in the farm.
Do you think it has been successful?
I am in the farm.
Or not?
I'm a farmer. I'm in the farm.
Why would you not want to take a position? Because you're a former director, Comptroller General of Customs?
I've not been invited.
That's the only reason you would not want to take a position?
Well, after the setting up of this panel, I did my role. I did my own part. I have written what I think will be solution to this issue of border closure. And I've submitted it to the chairman of that committee, the president of Burkina Faso. I've submitted a copy to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I've submitted a copy to the Minister of Finance and a copy to the Comptroller General of Nigerian Customs Service. And I've enumerated what actions are to be taken to prevent this future closure of the border, or even to stop smuggling entirely.
Okay, perhaps we could pick from what is your commentary about solutions to the problem of smuggling through the borders.
Yes.
Nigeria, with this border closure posture, is in good stead, according to concerns on the continent, on the sub-region, to breach the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So, what are your concerns in that regard?
You see,
if the border closure continues
beyond
July.
What I told the government or the committee that was set up to find a solution to the border closure, I think 4 items. One, I said they should harmonize the laws. If the European Union can harmonize their laws and have one law that is operating within the European Union, why should Nigeria and other members of the ECOWAS community not harmonize their own laws? Nigeria, we have our SEMA, that is Custom and Excise Management Act. And all the other countries, they do have their own laws. Bring those together, harmonize it, and have one law, which will be binding on all the 15 member countries of the ECOWAS. That is one. Two, in Nigeria, we have what is called import and export prohibition orders. There are certain goods that are not allowed to come into the country. There are certain goods that are not allowed to go out of the country. Now, harmonize this prohibition list for all the 15 member countries. Let us have, if goods are banned from coming into Nigeria, they should be banned from the rest of the 14 member countries of the ECOWAS, because there are 15 members, countries that form up this ECOWAS. So they should ban that one. Two, we have what is called custom codes, that is departmental instructions. Now, this departmental instruction guide the custom officers in how to go about his day-to-day activities. Harmonize those codes. In Nigeria, we have 44 codes. Bring that of Ghana, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, bring all of them together, harmonize it, and let us have one code, which is binding on all the custom officers of the 15 member countries. 4, there is this issue of smuggling petroleum products across the border. According to the ECOWAS protocol, goods originating from West Africa are allowed to move freely within the sub-region without any hindrance. Oil is drilled in Nigeria. Its origin is in Nigeria. But the problem is that we don't have refineries to refine this crude oil. and we send them outside. Once you send them outside, they are refined outside, then they assume 35% value addition. And once they assume this 35 value addition, then they become origin of that country where they are, they are this thing. And that is why they cannot move freely within this thing. So I advise in that memo that I wrote to the president of this Burkina Faso, one, Nigeria should be able to revive all its refineries. We have a lot of them in this country, but they are all not working. Let the government revive those ones. And in fact, there are some private sectors now that are setting up their refineries. Once they do that one, Nigeria's oil will move freely within the sub-region, and we can expand our market. We stand to gain. If that one is not possible, I advise the subsidy that is being given now should be removed. Let the market first decide the price of petroleum products, and as such, it can go within the ECOWAS sub-region, and it's going to solve this problem of smuggling across into our neighbors' countries, territories.
Of course, interesting propositions. We're also going to find out where it stands if we relate it to the federal government's condition that goods imported must comply with the rule of origin principle if the borders must be reopened. My guest today is the former Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service. We'll find that out after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. We've been having a pretty incisive time on the program, even though I say so myself. My guest today is a former Comptroller General, Nigerian Customs Service, in the person of Hamman Bello Ahmed. Let's continue with the conversation.
Yeah.
Where does the rule of origin principle find a place in your propositions to the committee as condition for the reopening of the border and to solve the problem of smuggling?
You see, what I suggested in that my memo to the president is to set up a committee, go around all the 50-member countries and identify factories and their products. I think it was 2016 or 2017, I can't remember. The ECOWAS Commission invited me and asked me to classify all the products that they have, because they were having problem along the borders if they are moving goods from one country to the other. And I did it for them. Now, for Nigeria or other members of the ECOWAS Commission to have goods moving freely from within the sub-region, they must be honest to themselves. If you import resin, for example, from China into any of these countries, and you now process it and produce fiber, it is assumed it has 35% rules of origin. Two items that are supposed to move freely within the ECOWAS sub-region: the natural product that originate from West Africa. Two, goods that were imported and further manufactured to certain extent that it assumed the 35 value addition are also assumed to be of origin of the sub-region, and as such they could move freely within the ECOWAS sub-region. But the problem here is that most of these countries are not honest to themselves. They bring in, for example, tomato paste, package it, and then move it into Nigeria and say it originates from Cote d'Ivoire or from Senegal or from Nigeria, from Ghana. And it's a failure on the part of the regulating agencies that are in the border station. All the agencies of government are there. The customs are there. NAFDAC is there. Standard Organization is there. NDLE is there. They are all there. And all these things are signed before they go out.
Is that also why customs officials, according to the Vice President, when he carried out an inspection visit recently, said the customs officials do not arrive on time for cargo examination? Now,
one thing I always talk about anywhere I go is that the customs service are lacking training. They don't have the knowledge of the customs. If they do, then all these things will not happen. They lack that knowledge. And I've always been emphasizing they need training, they need capacity building, they need training. When Hamid Ali was appointed as the Comptroller General of Customs, I sat with him for 2 hours and I told him that he needs to train his officers on the regulations on the day-to-day activities of the Customs Service. I told him that one. And I have even written it for him because he asked me to write it. I wrote it and I sent it to him. And nothing is done about it. So the problem of the service today is capacity building. They need training. Not on how to value, not on how to classify, but on the day-to-day responsibilities of the service. A vessel comes, what is the procedure for that vessel to come into berth, to discharge and to go? When you discharge the good, for how long are these goods supposed to be in the terminal? If you look at section 31, it says no goods is supposed to be in the terminal for more than 28 days. How many days are they staying? There are some, I was reading in the papers recently, containers have been in the terminal for over 10 years. Why should we not have congestion? It is the duty of the customs to make sure that no containers stay in the terminal for more than 28 days. And they are transferred to the government warehouse. And in the government warehouse, they are not supposed to stay there for more than 15 days. In those days in Lagos, every week, the area controllers of Apapa, Tinkan, and Murtala Mohammed Airport, they conduct auction of overtime goods.
If you say customs is lacking in training, what about the reign of terror of some customs service officials at the borders? Have you...
What do you mean by reign of terror?
Haven't you been inundated with reports in the recent past about how innocent Nigerians are killed because they don't give bribes to customs officials before they bring in their goods?
I disagree with that. Whoever tells you this, it will tell you the correct thing. I disagree.
You disagree
How
with
many
that?
officers have been killed at the border?
Okay, let's go through some of the reports that have come
How many officers have been killed at the border?
in recent times. We'll go through the reports together.
Okay.
So, in January 2019,
Yes.
5 innocent Nigerians, among whom was one Jamiu Bello, a fresh graduate of Tai Solarin University
Yes.
of Education, was felled at Yewa community at Obode Yewa in Yewa South local government area of Ogun State when they raided the house, when customs officials raided the house suspected to be harboring contraband goods. In November 2018, the Nigeria Police Service arrested 7 customs officials for shooting indiscriminately and killing one Mrs. Patience Oni near Badagry roundabout. In March 2017, one Taufik, a cab driver, was killed at Kobakwe town, Abeokuta, Ogun State, for allegedly carrying 3 bags of rice suspected to have been smuggled. These are just a few.
Now, these are stories that you people carry around. These are stories people carry around. I disagree with that. I will not accept that one. I disagree. The custom has the power to enter any premises as long as they suspect there is smuggled goods in that house. They will enter, raid, and carry those smuggled goods. The law gives them that power to do so. So for killing, how many? Look, when I was, let me tell you. Wait.
This was just about last year.
Wait.
On Lagos Badagry.
When I was CG Customs.
If you deny these reports of the excesses of officials of the Nigerian Customs Service, it's just to bring it to your notice if you're not aware. But you can go ahead.
Yes,
sir.
When I was CG Customs, custom officers stopped a vehicle suspected to be carrying contraband. He refused to stop. They followed it into a village, and the villagers came out and attacked and killed my officer. I had to go to condole the family in Maiha, in Adamawa State. The other officers abandoned him and ran away, and the villagers came and killed that officer. What happened? The case died down like that. I took the case to court, because section 166 of the SEMA stated clearly, anybody that holding arms and shoot an officer will be sentenced to death. How many officers, how many people have custom ever carried to court and sentenced them to death for injuring an officer? None. The custom officer did not carry themselves to that border station. They went to perform a function. You carry smuggled goods, you were stopped, you refused to stop.
So the violence goes both ways?
Both ways. You
so
refuse.
Now you would admit.
They stop. They ask you to stop. you refuse to stop.
So now you'd admit that some of your customs officials,
came here,
you admit that some of your customs officials also have excesses. Now, if you admit...
the officers were... No, not excesses. Not excesses. They were performing their own function. They asked you to stop, you refused to stop. And they followed you. The villagers came out and attacked and killed the officer. Would they not defend themselves? Why were they given the arms?
Now, if you admit...
Why were the custom not given... Why was the custom given the arms? To do what? As a decoration? If you attack an officer, if my life is threatened, definitely I have to defend myself.
If you admit that the customs officials lack training, and we know that this problem of capacity goes well beyond this time, this regime of the Customs Service, isn't it part of the legacy that you left behind as former Comptroller General?
When I came in as Comptroller General, I realized the importance of training. And I organized training of my officers in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, and in Kano. And I visited those areas. And when I left them undergoing that training. And it was after I left, then the whole thing was abandoned. Now, there is an issue you have raised. And this, I agree with you. Somebody was killed because he was holding 3 bags of rice. This pamphlet is a concession to passengers. If you travel like yourself, you go to Benin and stay there for a period of less than 9 months, you are coming back into Nigeria, and you come back with 1 bag of rice or 2 bags of rice. What the custom will do, bring it to them, make your declaration, this is my rice. And they will look at your passport. No, they have never seen you here. It's not that you go in the morning, you come back, go in the night, you come back, go in the afternoon, you come back. No. But it's the first time they saw you there, you are coming back with, the customs are not expected, are not supposed to seize that bag of rice from you. Because the concession given to you, somebody who is outside Nigeria for a period of less than 9 months is supposed to come back with goods, the value of which should not exceed 50,000 naira. The board of the Customs Service is supposed to have sat down, review some of these codes.
Well, that doesn't mean that that young man should have died, but you can make your point.
No, what might have happened in that one, maybe they might have stopped him, he refused to stop. And they followed him, and the villagers maybe want to attack them. And then they defend themselves. And maybe that's what led to the death. If he had stopped and said, look, I have these 3 bags of rice, what is the value? Is it up to 50,000? If it is not up to 50,000, then they look at it and say, safe trip. And then you go. But if they stop you, refuse to stop, then they may think there are certain things that you are trying to hide or trying to escape with. Maybe you are carrying arms. Maybe you are carrying drugs.
Of course, if violence must be the end result of such scenes at Nigeria's borders, then
the problem is
your argument about training
Nigerians,
is in order.
Nigerians are not aware of their rights. A number of the custom officers are also not aware of their responsibilities. In those days, when you are traveling, after the immigration has cleared you, these booklets are normally kept on the counter there. You pick one, go and sit down and read, and know you are right. But they don't more publish this thing. They don't.
Mr. Hamman Ali, I want to thank you very much for your time on the program and invaluable contributions.
Hamman Bello Ahmed.
Hamman Bello Ahmed.
Not Ali.
Yes. Mr. Hamman Bello Ahmed, I want to thank you very much for your time and invaluable contributions on the... That's how it's been on the program today. We'll promise you another incisive edition of the program. On behalf of the crew, I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.